Welcome everyone to the Wenham Board of Selectmen meeting of Tuesday, May 12th. It's 6:30 p.m. It's a regular scheduled meeting, and that joining us on Zoom. Thank you. We start off with public input, except it has to be related to the agenda. And that one thing, the announcements that Michelle Bailey asked me to make an announcement about some event. So I said I'd pleased to do so if she sent me an email, but she never did. So that I guess they'll have to be next week. So now we're down to town administrative report. There's a lengthy one in here, so that you can take it away, Anthony.
Thanks, Jack. Just want to point out a few things from the report, and then I got a couple other things to report on. So Steve Ozahowski, our assessor, is working on that conversion from Vision to Patriot Property. So this is actually a good time because I know that's really time consuming, and having some quiet time in town hall is certainly hopefully helping him get that done. Council on Aging, Jim Reynolds doing some great stuff with Zoom classes, social games and writing and classes, and he's doing a workout class. That's some innovative thinking on Jim and Janet Sacco. I probably mention this every week, but when somebody's doing an outstanding job with open enrollment and saving the town money, you just can't speak enough about that person. So thank you, Janet. And Eric is not with us today. He's on a vacation day, but just to remind everybody that the mandatory water measures begin on Friday, May 5th. Use of irrigation systems or sprinklers between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and will remain in place through September 30th. This Thursday, at May 14th, we have the results of the Citizen Engagement Survey at a special Board of Selectmen's meeting. That will be 5 o'clock. Hopefully people can join us live. If not, we'll be available on YouTube. But that is the that's the survey that was started a few months got the money from a grant through the state. So there's some great results, and I look forward to having them present and hopefully having some questions and moving on from there. And Hamilton last night did right now I kind of tentatively vote, I think, on a town meeting and town elections for the 20th and the 25th. Speaking of town meetings, I've been some venues that we could possibly, if we were to hold a town meeting and as safely as possible to do it, adhering to social distancing guidelines. I looked at the high school, but right now the Mass General allow us to go outside of the state, outside of town. So we have to see if that legislation changes, which would allow that, and also would allow the selectmen to reduce the quorum. And the other location that I was looking at today, thank you to Chief Kavanaugh and Deputy Chief Baxter and Captain Napoli. We all went to Gordon College, the A.J. Gordon Memorial Chapel. It seats 1,400. It's climate controlled. We talked, stayed there for a little bit and talked about how we could socially distance everybody and keep comfortable. It's a really large venue, but not knowing when and if, it's just getting those steps ready in the event that we are to move forward. So more to come on that, just preliminary looking around. But that's all I have right now, Jack.
I'd like to comment on your comments, and John, I'll let you comment a minute ago when I'm done on the your good news on Wenham Pines. So you want to be prepared for that when I'm done?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can enlighten to what I know. Yes.
Oh, just a minute, John. I'll call you in a minute. So that
Sure.
In terms of the normal spring, Anthony was talking about different venues that we can possibly locate to other than Bucher Auditorium for our annual Springtown meeting. I find it highly unlikely we're going to have a Springtown meeting for many different reasons. One, we'd have to have a revised budget that would incorporate the reductions that we're aware of that is from state funding and other sources in the next probably 3 weeks in order to have a warrant hearing a week before the town meeting. And the finance committee would have to weigh in and review the budget. The board of selectmen have to approve the budget. The finance would have to review it and approve it prior to the warrant hearing. And that's a lot of work to do with a lot of unknowns. And I think it's extremely unlikely that we would have all this put together. And the regional school district would have to come up with, they're coming up with a revised budget for fiscal 2021, incorporating some reductions they're aware of from the state. And that having all this done in the next 3 weeks-ish, I see is extremely unlikely. And that, but just, I don't want people to thinking that better set aside a date in mid-June for a late June for a meeting. It could change, but I doubt it. And so I just want to, I think it's good that Anthony and the fire department people are going around. I think that the venues he's looked at, other than the Bucher Auditorium, are more desirable than the Bucher Auditorium for social distancing. Nevertheless, I think we're not ready to actually present to the town a revised fiscal 2021 budget, which would have to be revised. So, John, you want to talk about Wenham Pines?
Yeah, just briefly, I ran into one of the owners the other day, and he indicated that there are 4 units now on the table for sale, and it looked like they were going to carry through. Obviously, they're in some point of purchase, and he was so excited by that he's looking at getting either 2 or 4 more going, which he very much needs, and so don't we. So it's just very preliminary at this point, but it sounded very positive.
It's encouraging, John. Thank you. We need revenue, so we're all rooting for Wenham Pines, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're moving to the consent agenda.
Okay, I think I have that.
Catherine.
Yep. Again, we have all minutes. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the consent agenda, including the following. Open session meeting minutes of April 21st, 2020. Executive session meeting minutes of November 19th, 2019, executive session number 1, and November 19th, 2019, executive session number 2. December 2nd, 2019, April 21, 2019, and executive session meeting minutes of November. Okay, so that's that. So those are the minutes to approve. And then with that, this could be a separate motion or not, but executive session meeting minutes of November 19, number 1, December 2, 2019, and April 21, 2019 will be held. Executive session meeting minutes of November 19th, 2019, number 2 will be released. So that's the motion.
Second that, John?
I'm in favor of it.
All in favor?
Yes, aye, Catherine.
Okay. All righty. I'm scrolling down here. Okay, next we have extension of board and committee appointments expiring June 30th, 2020, if I'm on the right page.
Yes.
So ordinarily, this time of the year, we make appointments to the various boards and committees that the Board of Selectmen have the authority to appoint, and that we haven't asked for, because we've been busy, letters of interest for any of these committees, and that so we thought the easiest thing to do, I think my colleagues agree with me, is to extend the appointments of the existing members with some exceptions, which I'll announce in a moment. For those appointments that are expiring June 30th, 2020 to September 1st, 2020. The exceptions would be the Finance Advisory Committee, which this board is not authorized to extend, only a special tripart member board, which chairman of the Board of Selectmen of the town, the chairman of the Finance Advisory Committee, and town clerk, the voting members of that. So we're not
Here.
to do so. Secondly, we may have during the next couple of months some information about a certain committee member who does not want to be reappointed or does not want to basically stay until September 1st. And we would then have a choice of saying, okay, thank you very much for your service. But it was a very important committee, and I'm going to pick one. I'm not aware of any issue in this committee, but the Zoning Board of Appeals, we would probably want to appoint a new permanent member or elevate the existing associate member. So I'm just giving a hypothetical, not that I'm aware of any desire to leave that. And there might be some other exceptions during the course of the next 3 or 4 months that we would want to go back and make an exception to the appointments expiring September 1st. And so that's the motion. Comments? Catherine.
Mr. Chairman,
Start with Catherine.
John here. Okay, go ahead. That's fine. Ladies first, there you go.
I don't have objection. I guess I would only have wondered if we should ask folks if they're willing to stay on, and this way have some idea of what kind of a scope of issue we have, but certainly makes sense. I don't see a lot of ability to make appointments at the normal time, so.
That's a good suggestion. I think, Anthony, perhaps Jackie or someone else in your staff could make some calls, look at the look at the committee members who are due to roll off, and find out whether they're willing to serve another 3 months, 2 months apparently. July, let's see, July and August, right? 2 months.
I think there's actually a list of them in our packet, and I'm guessing that Nikki has everyone's email, so it might not be a difficult thing for her to.
I don't think it's going to be difficult at all. I'm not aware of anybody anxious to get off, but I could be wrong. So that if they're anxious to get off, we can either choose to say, thank you very much for your service, or say, this is an important committee. We need to appoint somebody, and then belatedly ask for letters of interest. Just a minute, Anthony. And that,
Okay.
and then appoint somebody if it's critical. Although we'd have to hurry that. Anthony, you have a comment before I ask John to his comments?
Yeah, sorry. I'm having connection issues with the internet, so I'm in and out, and I apologize for that.
I think you need to fix that for town hall. You're in charge of town hall. Get a booster on the roof.
We're working on
You
that.
can't blame us.
That's true. Yeah, so after the appointments tonight on the extension, what we can do is send an email, letter or email out or a letter out to all the folks, just letting them know if they're that the board has continued their appointment until September 1st. If they so choose, they want to leave early, please let us know. And then we would add as a resignation and we'll file it with the town clerk.
Well, Anthony, you're cutting in and cutting out, but I think we got your general comments. And that, John,
Okay.
you have something to say earlier?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
At least I can.
I'm disagreeing with that mode of operation. I think it's premature to appoint people before you've checked with them to see if they're willing or extend their appointments without checking with them first. Secondly, there may be some people in the audience who would be willing to step up to the plate. And I think we really ought to put that offering out there of letters of interest and see who responds.
I think Anthony would like to respond to that,
And
John.
we've got time before July 1st.
John, the only reason why
Sure.
we're doing it, why we're talked about doing it this way, because generally we would have of the Board of Selectmen, and that would be one of their first duties is to appoint. So by just extending it, would allow Gary Cheeseman, once he's elected, to participate in that appointment. So yet we want to have a continuity of operations and make.
Yeah, Anthony, you're
forms
breaking
and all
up.
that. Right, is the with our
Yeah, it's really bad.
Anthony, I have a
so
suggestion.
right now with our limited. Yeah.
The next time you're Zoom, you either should do it from the fire station, the police station, the house, because this is not working. Okay, this is
think-
not working.
I think he's telling you should go home, Anthony.
I think that,
Go have a cup of coffee in the fire department. I think they have a Zoom connection that the town hall does, which is a real problem.
yeah, we're hoping
that?
to work on that.
But
So,
we do have, Anthony, we do have time between now and the end of June. So if we can make the attempt, I think that would be appropriate. And then worst case, we just do it at the, down the road another week or two.
To amend what I just said a minute ago, I think we can also send out letters of interest, even though we're not going to be appointing people presumably until September 1st. But nevertheless, give people a lengthy time to say, yes, I'm interested in joining a committee if there's a vacancy. It doesn't do any harm to send the letters out in the next few days, few weeks. I think that's, and maybe somebody already made that suggestion. If they did, I apologize. But in addition to John's suggestion, we want to know whether somebody really is anxious to leave one of the committees or boards, and they were counting on it. I have somebody in mind who has a house in New Hampshire, might not want to come back to a committee he's been serving on for many, many years. I don't know if this person would want to stay for another 2 months or not. Nevertheless, we can ask. I think that was John's point.
Yes, that's correct.
I think in between the lines, I think Anthony has some concerns about the amount of staff time it would take to send out letters of interest or requests for letters of interest to everyone. So I think going back to your original idea, Jack, the notion that we're at the moment going to extend these, but if anyone would like to not do that, they just would let us know, would require less staff time. And I think accomplish the same thing of having the appointments later.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, Nikki or somebody could, in their spare time, in the next month or so, send out letters of interest, to a committee, 2 or 3 a week, whatever, so that in a leisurely pace without a deadline. So if she can do that, fine. If she can't, okay. Or whoever he's going to assign it to, whoever Anthony's going to assign it to. Where did Anthony go? Was he here someplace? No,
Yeah,
I
He got,
hear him
he got gobbled up
I,
at town
I
hall.
jumped on my cell
There
phone.
he is.
now,
There
so
he is.
I'm
Okay.
trying this with the cell phone.
Oh, all right.
See if this is better.
Well, we'll let you know in a minute,
All
apparently.
right.
So that's the motion, such as it was announced.
Did we, I don't know if we had a second, but I'll second.
No, we don't have a second. We just
Okay.
do from you. All in favor? John,
No,
Catherine?
Yes.
John, what's your objection again?
just do courtesy to those people who were doing this without their consideration or their response for consideration, and also not opening the opportunity for somebody else to, this is a once a year type of thing that we do, to pipe in and say, yes, I would be willing to step onto that committee. Or somebody who wants to step off the committee, as you indicated.
Well, let me address your both points. I think we should ask people who have expiring terms, which should probably only be a handful, less than 6 or 7, if they're willing to serve. We can make communications with them, email or by phone, to say, will you be willing to serve until September 1? And we can amend the motion to say, subject to their willingness to do so, then fine. Secondly, in terms of your other objection was what? Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Well, that it doesn't give some new possible candidates the opportunity to step into the arena, send a letter of interest, and be considered.
Well, we're not going to be voting on these for a couple of months. So all I'm suggesting is we get ahead of the curve here a little bit. And now there's going to be vacancies in this committee, that committee, even for incumbents who might want to re-enroll, so to speak, that they're sending a letter of interest in. We don't have a particular deadline because we're not going to be acting on this presumably until August. So that so all we're compiling is letters of interest for openings on various committees without actually acting on these until probably August.
All right. I guess if there's a consideration for those who may have a concern or a problem, I go along with it.
Hey, Jack, the only other thing that I don't know if we mentioned, because we were in and out and it was anyways, but in the event that once the election starts, and we can start those appointments right away in July if we have folks that are interested. So we can start that advertising process, and I can have Nikki on that, John. So once the election
Okay.
happens after the 25th, we don't have to wait till after September 1st to do this. We can appoint sooner. So it's up to September 1st, or unless the selectmen appoint a successor before.
But right
That's
now, yes, Anthony, but right now we want to tell people who have expiring terms, you're there until September 1st, and unless there's some
Unless we appoint before.
No, I don't think we should be appointing before September 1st unless there's some reason, like that person wants to get off the committee. It's not, I don't think it's fair for them. If we're asking them to stay until September 1st, we should say September 1st. And that
That's the board, yeah.
having letters of interest between now and I'll say August or whatever, for that expiration on September 1st, will we be voting in August, is apropos, I think. And that I think if I was on a committee and I volunteered to serve until September 1st, and then I was told on July 10th, forget it, we found somebody to replace you, I wouldn't feel too good about the town of Wenham, and that serving another committee. So I'm just saying, I guess we have the right to go back and say this. Something happened on a particular committee. Maybe somebody changed their mind and was originally willing to serve until September 1st, but they want to move to Florida. I don't know why that would be, but never. No, I think we should, if we're asking people to make a commitment to September 1st, we should honor that commitment unless there's some reason a good reason why we want to accept an earlier resignation and an earlier appointment. Again, the Finance and Advisory Committee is separate, and there might be some other committee I can't remember that requires some kind of a joint approval process. So did I hear a second from Anthony? I heard a second from Catherine a minute ago, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify, I think to John's point, I think this doesn't change the process. The process is always invite people, the incumbents and others, for letters of interest. I think it just delays it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone still gets a chance to say, I want to be on this committee, or whether they're on it or not.
I got it.
It just gives everybody a little time, gets the new board in place, all of those things. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what is the motion then?
The motion is to extend the appointments of those committee members and board members whom the Board of Selectmen appoint that ordinarily would expire on July 1 to September 1st, absent some compelling reason why that person does not want to serve after they get expired, and/or excluding the Finance and Advisory Committee, which the Board of Selectmen is not authorized to extend the term. That's the
Okay,
motion again.
good.
Do we need another second since the motion changed?
Yes, we do.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Okay, that was the easy one. Okay, all right. Police Department appointments, that's Catherine.
Oh, I have that one too. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have two proposed motions. I don't know if the captain or the chief would like to just speak to the process so that the motions are in a little bit more context. Does that work for you guys, Chief?
Absolutely.
And then I'll make the motions separately and we can vote on them.
So we are presently trying to fill one full-time position and one part-time position. We have a few vacancies in the department. This one was when Mia Cefalo left to go to the State Police Academy. We did the same process that we've been doing all along. We did advertise for this one outside the department, hoping to get a fully trained person, which turned out to be incredibly fortuitous for us because none of the police academies are even running right now. We have a demonstrative need to get this position filled as soon as possible. our recommended candidate, actually both of them, have the ability to go right to full-time status. They'll have to go through field training as any officer would, but they're going to have the ability to go right to work without having to get waivers or go through the 6-month-long academy. We don't incur any of the fees associated with that. So we're pretty optimistic about getting these people up and trained just with Wenham's ways. They're already fully trained police officers, as I said, and getting them out on the road to serve the public.
Okay. Do you want me to start with the first motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 41, Section 97A, to appoint, I don't have a middle initial, John Phillips of Salem, Massachusetts, as police officer. Is that his actual title? Police officer for the Wenham Police Department.
Sure, or patrolman, either would work.
And that's the full-time candidate.
Yeah, and should the motion say full-time?
Sure,
think so.
it'll differentiate between the two.
Under the Mass General Law, that's the full.
That is the full-time. Okay.
Nevertheless, I think it's a good point. Make it.
Okay, so appoint John
Yeah.
Phillips as full-time.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the motion.
If possible, could we request a June 1st date for both of them?
Oh, yeah. Let me just read it again. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 41, Section 97A, to appoint John Phillips of Salem as a full-time police officer for the Wenham Police Department beginning June 1st, 2020.
What day is June 1st? It's not a Sunday or a Saturday, is it?
No, it is a Monday.
Okay. I'll second that with a comment, just for the listening audience, that Catherine, John, and I have three of us have interviewed this candidate today, and we're all in favor. Obviously, we're in favor of wait to John. So we all think that he'd make a good full-time. John, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, so we would be voting on John Phillips only at this time.
Right now, yes.
Okay. I thought very highly of his interview with myself. I think he's a good, very good candidate, and he does come well heeled. So I'm in favor of it. I'm just trying to figure out. I've not had much time, Chief. I'm not against what you're proposing here. More, I'm concerned that we're going through some very tough financial times, and I want to make sure that we're not putting the cart before the horse. And when you take on a new person, you're going to be able to keep them on because of things that we may be running into. But I would go along with this candidate, at least based on what I thought I saw in your memo to us.
Yeah, just to clarify, this is one of two openings full-time. So we would still be down one position, even with this appointment.
Yeah, that's the message I got from your memo. So you're making do right now with two short. Is that correct?
Oh, hopefully one short in a moment, John. Yes.
Okay, so this would be one short. Okay.
Is that
All right,
correct, though,
thank you.
Chief? At the present, if we made no appointments tonight, you'd be down 2 officers.
That's
Two
correct.
full-time officers.
Right, okay. I did meet with him, with John as well, and found him to be what I thought. I assume he has the qualifications because he was well interviewed and screened, but I thought he would be a great fit for the town, so.
And just to add, if I may, as an added security to the town financially, he is going to be pursuant to the 3-year contract that's now in place. So there is security to us as far as an investment made to him, and he's well aware of that and more than excited to be on board.
Seen that one.
Okay, because there's been no discussion of money regarding this candidate, at least to my knowledge. So he's going to fall right into the commitment that we have with the police department currently.
That's correct.
All in
Okay.
Wow.
Aye.
No audio.
John,
vote? Aye.
Catherine, yes.
John, yes.
yes.
Jack Wilhelm, yes. Congratulations, John Perkins. Phillips, excuse me.
So am I making the second motion as well?
Yes, please.
So to the same end, I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Daniel K. O'Connell of Peabody, Mass., and I have him as a reserve patrol officer for the Wenham Police Department. I presume also beginning June 1st. Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes, please.
So that's the motion.
I'll second that.
I have no.
Thanks, John. Any concerns or comments you wish?
Question, yes. If we were to put this person on as a reserve, he's not on staff unless we need him for the position, for filling a gap. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes, it's the same as with all reserve officers.
Okay, but that's just, okay. But the first officer would be full-time and one of our employee.
That's correct.
Well, they're all our employees, John. The reserve officer shifts when there's an opening.
Yes, yeah, when there's a need. It's sort of like an on-call fire department guy,
Well,
girl,
kind of, sort of.
kind of, sort of. I think I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, John, for the vote. Catherine's looking for a yes.
Yes, for Catherine.
John,
Yes.
yes. Congratulations to guys. Congratulations, Chief and Captain.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for your support. Thank you very
By the
much.
way, Chief, what's that background I see? That's a beautiful background. I'm kind of jealous of that. What is that? Is
It's,
that a painting or is that the actual a lake?
No, that's actually the Danvers River at sunset.
Wow.
Jackie helped me turn it on a few weeks ago. I don't know how to turn it off. So,
It's gonna be sunset forever.
It's not the actual sunset itself live. It's a photo of it or something.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Uh-oh, now he's frozen.
Okay.
Froze on the river.
Well,
We lost Anthony, now we lost Chief.
And
All right.
John's not too great either, actually.
yeah.
We're having a tough
Oh,
night
so-
tonight with our internet.
And now we're continuing on new business. Surprise, surprise. We're going to ask Mary Ting, our public health nurse, to say a few words about COVID-19 or whatever else she wants to talk about.
Welcome, Mary Beth. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Board of Selectmen and our public safety officials, town administrator, and the residents, and all the people that I can see. Takes me back to my romper room days when she used to look and say, I see Catherine and I see Jeffrey.
Romper, bumper, stumper, boo.
I didn't remember that part, but I do
Well,
remember the names.
Gee, you still got a sense of humor. You haven't lost your sense of humor.
Hopefully not. We all
No.
need to keep our sense of humor in these difficult days. So case counts for the town of Wenham currently. We have 15 individuals who have been infected with COVID. Of those, 14 have recovered. One is still in the process and in isolation. I'm sorry to report that we have had 2 reported deaths associated with COVID for the town of Wenham.
oh,
So it's very unfortunate, and our hearts go out to the affected individuals' families. I am continuing to get updates from the Department of Public Health, and guidance continues to change. So for instance, we received guidance from the Department of Public Health that will potentially affect residents in the following way. Up until now, contacts of confirmed cases were advised about quarantine. And the guidance now includes that contacts of confirmed cases are referred to go and seek testing. And by testing, they specifically mean the nasopharyngeal swab testing for the PCR testing, not antibody testing at this point in time. They're not recommending it for individuals as a tool for diagnosis. They really want to see people tested with the PCR testing to confirm whether or not they are in fact infected at this point in time. And this is becoming more important as we approach phase 1 on May the 18th. So what we're going to be trying to do as more things begin to open up is to keep a really tight handle on who is infected, getting them isolated quickly, identifying their contacts, and find out if they are infected quickly. So we try to keep a real tight handle on the spread of the virus as things begin to open up and people begin to move a little bit more. I would still say until we get further direction on which businesses and recreational facilities and things are opened, please do everyone remember to do the wonderful job that we have been doing of staying home, leaving your home for essentials, which is grocery shopping or trips to the pharmacy or urgent medical care, and certainly getting some exercise. If you are out and about and you are not able to maintain the physical distancing, please wear a face covering of some type. We have information on the COVID-19 page of the Wenham Town webpage. And certainly if you have any questions, if you don't have technology and have questions about this, do please feel free to call the Board of Health at 468-5520 extension 4. I will say personally, I will just say that I have real concerns about where this is going to go as we begin to open things up more. So I would just encourage everyone to exercise caution. As businesses and other things begin to open up, we need to continue to focus on health and safety. We are in a public health emergency. And so it's important to take that very seriously and do the very best that we can. I appreciate both personally and professionally how difficult these closures and these limitations are for people's physical, social, and emotional health. It's very, very difficult. We wish to support you in any possible way that we can, but we want to reiterate that these measures are put in place to try to protect the health of our society at large, individually, but the society at large as well. So I do appreciate the sacrifices that everyone is making during these very difficult times. And I'm open for any questions or comments as needed.
Well, I always have questions, but I'll wait if someone else does.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, so I have two questions, if you don't mind, Mary Beth. The first one is, I think you talked about contact tracing and new CDC guidelines that people should be tested if they've been in contact. So my question is, are tests available? Is there anyone who's being told that they are unable to be tested because there's no way or place or testing available? I keep hearing about, hard to get testing.
Catherine, I hesitate to do it, but I will offer you a quick correction, which is it's not a CDC recommendation at this point. That's coming from the Mass Department of Public Health, because
Okay,
I think different states might be handling that differently.
Okay.
But in Massachusetts, that's how we're choosing to handle it now.
Okay, I understand.
We have definitely, I'm sure if you've heard some of the governor's press briefings daily, they do talk about how the access to testing is definitely increasing.
Yep.
And just as a case in point, I spoke to some individuals affected recently and told them that the guidance was that they should seek testing, and they were able to get it within 24 hours. So
Right.
the access
That's
is definitely improving. And I would say what I'm finding is that the report time for the results of testing is also improving, that the results are coming by more quickly, which is
Well,
helpful.
That's really good news, because that's really the way it has to work, I think.
Yes.
And I'm perfectly happy to have the correction. So please, thank you for that. My second question is, I think I have some of the same concerns about everyone wanting very much to loosen things up and open things up. And I do think we need to be so careful with that. My question, and I don't know if you can answer it, is, so it sounds like this opening up is a statewide thing. Some states have said, okay, well, we're going to phase 1, but not in this county. So is in your understanding of the data, is Essex County sort of typical of other counties in Massachusetts? And is there any reason that we should be more concerned than other counties about relaxing the guidelines being relaxed?
That's a wonderful question. I don't have a ready answer for you, but I
Okay.
will tell you, when you look at the state data,
Mm-hmm.
we are in, I haven't looked at it in a couple of days, but traditionally we've been like in the top 3 counties.
Right, that's why I
And,
asked the
you know,
question.
other parts of the state are less impacted.
Yeah,
In the DPH calls that I've been part of, I have not heard anything about local rollout. I think we'll know more about that this coming Monday when we hear from the governor and the lieutenant governor and her team, reopening team. I haven't heard anything about that thus far. They're generally talking about things on a statewide level. I don't, that very well could change as things do change in the management of COVID, it seems. But in terms of the gist of your question, I think we have significant cause for concern in Essex County.
which I think goes to what you said earlier, is if this is a statewide opening, that we have to continue to be vigilant ourselves and
Yeah.
follow the guidelines. Okay, thank you. Those were my questions for tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay. Selectman Clemenzi, I think that Selectman Wilhelm is asking if you have any questions.
Yeah, we can't
Oh,
hear
I'm sorry.
Jack.
Oh, we can't hear Jack. No, I think I'm all set, Mary Beth. You do a very, very fine job with your presentation. So I can't think of anything. And then Catherine came in with a couple of good ones. So we've had recovery, and that's a very positive thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth.
Well, thank you all. Wishing all the residents very, very well.
Yes.
Thank you.
I did personally inspect the rail trail today, as I do twice a week, and that I saw no cars anywhere near the rail trail, but I saw 2 people more or less social distancing on both sides of the rail trail, but I only saw 4 people, two on one side, 2 on the other side. So it's working. I know people are interested in that, and you are as well. I signed that duty myself as opposed to police.
Oh, we
So,
didn't take a vote on that, Jack, though.
No, you don't have to. I'm just making an observation, John. So that
Yeah, I got it.
Anthony, I think we have a lot of budget information here. Did you intend to speak to that at all tonight?
I think that's next on
Sorry.
our
So
agenda.
Chris is just going to give an update. It's been a couple of weeks. So he's talked about the revenues and expenses for FY20. So he's just going to let you know where we stand as of the other day. So Chris is on.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Here is just an updated revenue comparison sheet just from where we were on 4/30 last year in fiscal year 19 and where we are at 4/30 in this current year. So as you can see from the last time, this is looking a lot better. Our comparisons to last year were almost completely caught up with our lockbox. I did post a little bit more going back to June 30th that we got because this report was done on last Thursday. So we're about a week behind on some of our mailings. So we are getting a little bit more, but as you can see from here, we are back up to pretty much almost in line with last year. We were 92% collected last year, and this we're 90.7% collected. So we are getting caught up with our revenues. Our real estate, as of right now, was at 92.25% collected through 4/30, and actually in last year through 4/30, we're only 91.29% collected in real estate. So we're actually doing a little bit better in our real estate collection than we were from last year, which is for us is a big deal because that is the majority of our income that we receive. So not to spend, do you have any questions on this? Because they also have projected cash flow that goes in the revenue and expenses, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions on this sheet before we move on.
Catherine?
I'm all set, thank you. Good
John?
news.
And we did receive the Hamilton assessments we received on May 6th. So next time we go over this spreadsheet, that revenue will be included in there. So we have received that
Great.
as well.
Okay. I do have a question for you, Chris. First of all, I want to make a comment. I cannot thank you enough. You're giving us the numbers that we need to see, and on a weekly basis. This is it comforts me a great deal to see this. This is how every operation runs. The concern I have is the conversation we had last week with Bruce Tarr and Brad Hill, and I want to give you an alert if you didn't hear that conversation, that the state could start to have shortfalls, and you need to be aware of that and make sure that we know if they're off by any measure whatsoever. Please make sure that the board knows and the town administrator knows.
You were breaking up a little bit at the end there, Jack, but I
Who's
think
John?
It's John.
John, sorry, John. Sorry.
okay.
And
I never
thank
break
you.
up.
Thank you. That's much appreciated for the nice comments. Thank you. I'm trying to work as hard as I can to get you the numbers, as often as possible. So with the state aid, I did watch that roundtable discussion, and from my understanding from that, at least for the current fiscal year, is we should be, as get our payments as received. It will just be for the fiscal year 21. He was projecting a 20% decrease in our state aid payments next year. And Anthony, Jackie, and myself have already been working on some updated revenue estimates. And before he even had that discussion, we estimated it, we decreased it by 25%. So we're already being a little bit more conservative. So we are aware of that, and we are keeping that in mind for our planning going forward.
Good move. Very good move. Excellent move. That's
Also,
what you need to do. And I said to Anthony earlier that we really want to see what a 1/12 budget looks like. Not to put more demand and pressure on you, which you've got plenty of already, but that 1/12 budget, it could hold all kinds of pitfalls in it that we're not aware of or haven't thought about.
Yes, I've been looking into the they put out bulletins relating to that, so I've been doing research and pulling up some reports to look at our July spending this current year and prior fiscal year to try to get an understanding put forward. And Anthony, myself, and Jackie are actually going to be meeting on that tomorrow to talk about it a little bit further. We're trying to stay on top of that as well.
Last question. Have you had or heard any comments or concerns by the general public when it comes to tax payment and the even the excise tax payments and so forth? Is there any communication from the public about how difficult it may be for them?
I would actually touch base with both Janet and Sherry today at the office. They said they have been getting a lot of calls just about late fees and demands about stuff like that. So I don't know if it's more so, I don't think it's people not being able to pay. I think it's just been questions about fees, late fees and penalties and stuff like that.
Well, responsible people, that's where they'll start. And then it may lead into other things. So, that's what I'm saying is thumb on the pulse is my guidance to you, both from the state point of view and the residents' point of view.
Okay.
Catherine, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. I have a comment. I'm still worried. Although the numbers that you've just presented are encouraging, I'm still worried about the first quarter of fiscal 2021. But
Yeah.
thank you, Chris.
And every reason too, Jack.
Thank you. I think we'll go on now to the other agenda. Anthony, is there anything else you want to do on the finances before I go on to the next?
Chris has that cash flow that he presented a couple weeks ago. If you want to see that, if not, we could.
I don't think so. We can pass on that, I think.
Okay.
Right now, all is well, or all as well as we can expect. We haven't seen any. I'm glad all the numbers were crunched because I'm worried about the real estate tax revenue, particularly. I did notice that the excise tax is way down. People are not buying new cars. No kidding. I understand that one. So let's go on to the other items in terms of the elections.
Oh, just Jack, on 21, FY 21, that was listed. I just wanted to reiterate what's already been said as far as we're working on the 1/12 budget as well as the FY 21 budget, and hope to have something for next meeting for a first glance at what that might look like.
Great.
So that's all I really had on that.
Great. Thank you.
Can't wait. So, okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like Christmas, though.
I don't think so.
No Christmas.
No Christmas. Not even Halloween. So that. So last meeting we had a week ago, we had a discussion about annual town elections and what date we should have it, if we'd have it at all in the spring, et cetera, et cetera. There was a vote taken 2-1 that we have scheduled our annual town elections for June 4th. I added a caveat to that. I said on the agenda for this meeting right here, I'd put a reconsideration of that, a date. And so after that, I've had extensive discussions with our town clerk, Diane Bucco, as well as Regional School Committee Vice Chairman Michelle Bailey. I see her picture right there, a smiling picture. I'm sure it's a contemporary picture as well. And what are the rules, and as well as a better understanding of why Hamilton wanted June 25th as their date. So in Hamilton, they have a I'll back up and start with Hamilton. Hamilton has a bylaw which we do not have. That basically stipulates that their town elections must be the Thursday after annual town elections. They've already decided, and they voted last night to have their elections on June 20th. Yeah, June 20th, right. Although they're going to be discussing that
25th.
week because there was some consternation about that in terms of the same discussions we had earlier. They're really going to be able to muster up the requisite quorum, which in their case is 75. So I think there was some misgivings amongst people, but they'll vote again, reconsider that vote next week. But nevertheless, they're bound to have their vote for elections, town elections on June 25th. So then I went back and researched our history along with what the regional school agreement advises, states, not advises. And basically, we haven't been following this. The regional school district should really be setting a date in February for a May election for the elections. And they haven't been doing that. And that I'm not going to muck up the elections this year, but I think I've asked Diane Bucco and Michelle to work to see if we can go back to fulfilling the requirements regional school district regional agreement, which the town of Wenham, the town of Hamilton, and the regional school district itself all signed, which was last ratified in 2010 and 2014. I think they've all agreed to that, but that's for next year. And so that, without mucking up this year's elections, I'm going to propose that we move the date of our own annual town elections from June 4th to June 25th. which would coincide with Hamilton elections. Presuming they're still going to have the annual town elections June 25th. Although if they don't have the annual meeting on June 20th, I don't know what they're going to do. The bylaw says the Thursday after annual town meeting. So let's assume for now the vote they took last night holds. And it's a moving target. I think that Diane Book and I have had extensive discussions, and Michelle Bailey and I did have some over the weekend. I think we're all in agreement that let's proceed, and that we need to have the elections in June, and that so I'm proposing and moving actually that we amend them that I made and we had a majority opinion on last week from June 4th to June 25th. And with that, I'll stop and ask for comments. And I'm going to begin with Catherine.
Well, I will heartily second that motion. You didn't mention the fact that we have in our packet as well some information from the Board of Health, which would also support that date. I would, it's not going to be my game, but I would make a recommendation that next year, that a group of people look at the regional agreement, because not only it's not only a matter of following the regional agreement, there are things that have changed so that the things that are in the region, there's at least one thing in the regional agreement is no longer legal. It's not legal to have elections on 2 different days and for one town clerk to hold the votes and sequester them. So I think, in addition to even thinking about when to have an election next year for the school committee, some group of people should look at that regional agreement and perhaps make amendments that at least align with current law. But relative to your suggestion of moving the election to the 25th, obviously, I think you know that I think that's the right thing to do.
Let me just respond to that. Yes, I agree. Thank you for the second the motion. 1, 2. If the regional school district follows our own regional school agreement, they would have elections in May. So there'll be no need to for either town clerk or our town clerk to withhold the votes. They had a separate school election in May, so that would untether the town of Wenham and the town of Hamilton to have their elections any day they wish. And so
So they have 2 options, Jack, and I think you're
I
right.
know.
One of them would be May, and the other one would be to have them along with the towns.
that's the default. That's the default election. The stated election is in May. The default, if they don't do that, and they haven't done it in years, is to have it as you described and I just described.
Right.
I nevertheless agree that perhaps that it's kind of, I think it's time to have the regional school district agreement reviewed. I believe the town of Hamilton expressed a desire to do that a few months ago. We didn't follow up with that. John, do you have any comments on, I moved and Catherine seconded the June 25th date? John? Hello?
He's frozen.
Was that a
I
yes?
think he froze. I think his camera froze. We may have
camera
lost
froze.
him.
Okay. All right, I guess, we'll have
Let me
to,
try to text him.
majority decision, we'll have to put that down as a majority decision, that 2 affirmative and 1 abstention. I have to make up something here. So he didn't vote yes, didn't vote no, so it carries.
Yeah, I agree. Yes for Catherine.
Well, I don't know what else I can do.
Yeah, internet's tough tonight.
Yeah. So let's see. That's all I think we have on the agenda. We've been meeting once a week. I think we'll continue that for now, and that we'll meet again next Tuesday night. We would then hear from Anthony. I think he's promising us something for the fiscal 21 budget, which I think is very ambitious, but highly desirable. And we'd also find out whether or not the town of Hamilton is actually going to go forward with the town elections on June 20th.
We got to shoot high, Jack. We got to shoot high. We aim high.
And we'd also find out, let's see, whether Governor Baker has decided to, what changes he's going to make with the social distancing restrictions and so on and so forth. And that I will say that our local golf course is thrilled that they're now open, and that people. I was at a Veterans Committee meeting this morning, and 2 members said they had already played there this week. And that the owner is pleased that he can start collecting some revenue. This is the Wenham Golf Course, and that I'm glad for him, although that he has a limited ability to let people use motorized carts unless you have a waiver. I presume that people over 70 or something else like that are infirm but can still swing a golf club. I'm not sure what the qualifications for waiver are, but anyway. So so I'm going to move to adjourn unless either one of the 2 other selectmen have something that they wish to bring up, but I again failed to do so.
No, but I would second that motion.
I'm all set, Jack.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor of adjourning?
Catherine, yes?
Aye. John, yes.
7:30 on the nose, I guess. So Catherine Tinsley, we can mark that down, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Okay.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.